that was the first wave which changed Bengali Hindu consciousness. The second wave said, anyone who holds the power over ritual or who teaches you ritual is wielding a tool of social oppression and exploitation. Therefore, those who could actually give you some kind of guidance were removed from the equation altogether because they've been villainized as opposed to being celebrated, valorized, encouraged, whichever way you see it. And I'm not referring to one particular Varna or Jati. I'm just talking of those people who are in a position to offer cultural, spiritual thought leadership to Hindus. Then the third wave said, we are in this Daridra condition because of our polytheism and because of our diversity. Therefore, let us now prove the worth of the religion of our ancestors on the angles of the colonizer's religion. Therefore, let us also show we are also no different from monotheistic faiths. And then started an attempt to recraft Sanatana Dharma on monotheistic lines. A polytheistic tradition is then force-fed into a monotheistic tradition without realizing we follow both monotheism in consciousness and polytheism in expression. That is what we do. Ultimately, it will be Brahma and then you have Devatas. So that layer effectively decides that, you know what, how do I make my religion cool for the West or acceptable to the West, as if we have a duty to do that. You take it or leave it, I don't care. That degree of shamelessness does not exist. So that attempt led to what I call massive infusion of Protestantism into Hindu thought, wherein you're looking for villains in all priestly positions. I'm sure everybody suffers from human frailty. But is that proof of systemic failure? I don't know. Because I can't think of a single system where you can't find one person or a group of people who have failed with the system or have not been able to live up to the standards of the system. That shows nothing. Second, once this is done, it sets the tone for saying, ritual is superstition, this is oppression, therefore I reject it. Okay, what are you replacing it with? What exactly are you replacing it with? In my view, that created the most fertile ground possible for communism. You have effectively paved the way for that ideology by removing all your defense mechanisms and your consciousness filters by killing them one after another. And I'm using Bengal as an exemplar of the rest of Bharat. Because that's the same experience that visited Punjab, that's the same experience that then went to Maharashtra, that's the same experience that then went to Tamil Nadu, my home state. The stalwarts of Dravidism are a product of this movement. And there's a reason for it. Because the more you read literature, you realize that the Church of Brahmo Samaj actively sent out missionaries across the country, including to the south. They went to Punjab, they went to Maharashtra, they went to Tamil Nadu, all parts of Bharat at one point. This movement was leading the intellectual discourse not just in this part of Bharat, but the rest of Bharat. Fortunately, the leading lights of this movement realized that there are some serious issues with the foundational assumptions of Brahmoism, and they themselves start changing that position. So, from the original founding of Brahmo Samaj, then you come to the Tattvabodhini Sabha, which actively pushes monotheism. The speed breaker in a good way, in my humble view, was Sri Rabindranath Tagore, who said, sorry, beyond this if it goes, we will not be able to recognize what you've created. It will no more be relatable at all to Hindu Dharma or to this land whatsoever. It will become a poor imitation of something from outside. So they decided to put the brakes on it. And it is around that period that national consciousness wakes up in Bengal. Seriously, it produces some of the finest stalwarts ever in the history of the world, not just Bengal. Because They had the confidence and the conviction to take on the empire at its peak, intellectually and militarily. In my view, a Bose would not have been made possible without Sri Aurobindo. They may not be Samkaleen, they may have spoken, they may not have spoken, but the ambience and the atmospherics that was created or were created made it possible for someone else to take the torch from there on, take the baton from there on, and move forward. The more you read, you also realize that there is a serious umbilical cord that connects the Brahmo Samaj and the founder of Arya Samaj. They met, they were talking, and then you ask yourself, okay, is there a common pattern of thought that is going through this entire dhara across the country? Which is why I don't think we should read the history of Bengal in silos with a tunnel vision. They were interacting even in those days when there was no social media. They were actively talking to each other. They were cross-pollinating. All of this was happening.